Hey, Tommy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon to everybody, not just Chris Miller. Thank you for being here. Getting excited for the draft tomorrow night. What you got, Chris?
Tommy, first question is, can you just describe the work you and your group has put together through this draft process? And a follow-up would be, do you foresee yourself through calls with other teams having the ability to potentially move up tomorrow?
Well, the process is one that I can't say enough about the fantastic staff that we have. Our college group, our international people, they've been working very bizarre. Really think about the beginning of the season, the college season, international games where people are prohibited from attending games. So we watched a ton of games on film. Now they were able to go to some live events, and putting all that together takes extreme amount of effort. And I can't say enough about our staff. Um, that in terms of moving up, moving back, there's a lot of options on the table. We're going to do the best one for the Wizards, but we're definitely going to take our time. You don't want to commit to anything today. Something better comes along tomorrow. But I like where we're at. I think 15 is a good pick for us. We definitely want to get something in the second round. That's always a goal. Right now, that's not anything that is available to us. So we'll continue to work the phones and do those things. I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, I don't think anybody from Carolina is going to go at 15. The only guy from Carolina we take 15 is Antoine, who's in our draft room and still the best looking player that we have.
There's a big guy that might be available, but yeah, maybe not at 15. Thanks, Tommy.
There you go. Thanks for the free tip.
Chase.
Hey, Tommy. This draft is considered pretty special at the top. There's quite a few guys that maybe would be number one picks in other years. Do you think that applies to the whole draft? Is it deeper? Is 15 different than 15 in another year?
We actually looked at a couple different scenarios and comparing them to previous years. I think it's at the top, it's a little bit more top heavy than maybe a couple last few drafts. But if you go 1 to 25, 1 to 30, I think you see a lot of older players that are included in that group, and that's not normal. There's a lot of players that have had multiple years in college. That's not normal. I think COVID certainly predicted that because people were able to return to college. I think last year a lot of players that would normally have gone pro decided to go back to college because they weren't able to work out for teams. And if they didn't work out for teams, that would probably have them trapped in the second round. So a lot of that is there, Chase, to your point. It feels deeper because there's a lot more players that were in this draft because they didn't age out, if you will, from last year. There's a lot of international players that have a lot of intrigue. I'm not sure how many end up in the first round, but there'll be a couple, at least 3 or 4 maybe. And then certainly in the second round, there'll be a little bit of influence there as well.
And you guys have obviously expanded your analytics department. Would imagine a lot more information at your disposal. How has that kind of played into the drafts the last 2 years in leading to Rui Hachimura and Denny Abdia?
Well, I think everything that we've done in the last 2 years, to your point, trying to become a lot more data driven, high character driven that we've always mentioned. Now, when you add a little bit more layers of data, a lot more information, it makes it kind of drives the map a little bit more efficiently. You still have a lot of voices in the room. You still have a lot of eyes, ears, and numbers kind of colliding sometimes. And especially you got to think there's some kids in this draft that were in a 15-game bubble in Orlando. And how do you factor that in versus the kid that played college at the same age in his games? Because a lot of college kids didn't play 18 games, 20 games. So it's an interesting way to look at numbers. You have to be careful. The dreaded phrase, small sample size, that kind of applies this year. So you really have to have done your homework on the EYBL, national, USA basketball tryouts, things of that nature. There's a lot more information now available, but certainly this past season, there's small sample sizes everywhere you turn around. So you really have to have a great feel for maybe projecting a player forward where they're going to be in 2 years, 3 years.
Fred.
Hey, Tommy. Regarding the reports about Brad from this week, which I'm sure you saw, what is your communication been like with him throughout the off season, and what do you make of that I guess the process of communication with him right now?
The process of communication with Bradley is the same as for me. It's always been. We call each other. I was with him in Vegas, went out there and watched a couple of the exhibition games. I was there for Argentina, Australia, and we had a great time. Caught up, talked about our coaching staff, and I think everything else to me, Fred, the outside noise is just noise. I don't comment on rumors or anything. I just know whenever I pick up the phone, we have a conversation. I give them updates, kind of what we're thinking. And, Bradley Beal, first and foremost, I want to salute him, Russell Westbrook for Bradley's U17 team and their second place finish, Peach Jam. Russell's U16 Why Not team winning. Their commitment to grassroots basketball is tremendous. And I checked with the Players Association with the NBA. We can't put them into our scouting pension, but I wish we could because they're great scouts. They're down there seeing all these guys, and they report back to us. So they were very great help on some of these young guys. I always ask players' opinions. Talent, players know players. But in terms of our constant communication, nothing's changed, and I don't expect it to.
And last year, leading into the draft, you kind of set out, right? I think it was during this press conference last year that your guys' strategy was to select the player who you believe was the best player available. Circumstances change year to year. What is your guys' approach going into the draft in that regard this year?
I think it's the same way. I think there's a difference between 9 and 15. I think at 15, we were a little bit more creative. There could be somebody that you say, hey, this guy, probably we can get him into the rotation in a year. Might be a little bit older, so maybe his upside's not quite as high. Maybe there's a project there that's going to take 3 or 4 years, but we have the vehicle to do that with the Capital City Go, and we got a little bit better depth. So we'll just continue to weigh those things. I'm not anywhere close to making a decision right now. We still have a lot of different things that we're looking at, and that's the way it always works. You prepare for the draft all year, and you still get down to the last day, and we owe it to the franchise. We owe it to the Wizards to certainly run out every single possibility, and there's still quite a few of those out there. Fred, I do want to compliment you must have paid your Wi-Fi bill or something. I could hear you clearly. I could see you clearly. That was better than Wes's press conference. So that's major props to you.
I had to upgrade after that. Thanks, Tommy.
You should.
Kareem.
Hey, Tommy, how's it going?
Good, sir.
I want to ask about, in the lab, you guys have been doing your homework on this draft and on free agency for all this time, and then all of a sudden you hire Wes and you kind of bring his thoughts into the whole process. I'm just curious, what is it like kind of integrating him, and do things change much? Because he might have certain preferences or ideas that may have differed from what you guys were thinking previously.
Well, I think almost to a man, if you ask every NBA head coach, they would probably say, get rid of the pick. We don't like rookies, right? Wes is aware of everybody that we're looking at. We're going to spend some time. He just got back into town. We're going to spend some time going over it. And these are the guys that we look at. But I know, from the interview time that we've had, the time that we spent on the phone every night discussing kind of where we want to see our roster post free agency, he has a very similar ideas that I do. We just want to continue to be a lot more athletic, a lot more versatile. And I think the opportunities to do that are there either through the draft, through trade, through free agency. And I think we're always going to be aligned in terms of the way we look at what our roster needs are and where we want to go. It gives you a great deal of confidence. I think that we have some players that are a little bit more battle tested than this time a year ago. Some players that are our roster right now that weren't on our roster this time a year ago. So it gives you a little bit of, confidence in what we have returning, and then certainly the possibilities that are out there that are available. It gives us a lot more things to think about for sure. But we've definitely discussed our roster and ways that we can make it better.
And one follow-up for me, I'm just curious,
obviously
there's been a ton of talk about, improving the defense. Obviously that's, a priority.
What are you talking about?
I'm curious, but when you look at players, do you look at them from, hey, I want somebody that kind of has a little bit of a defensive mindset kind of already instilled? Or is that something that, hey, like you just said, hey, if we could get good athleticism, we can teach you defense. It can teach you that mindset. I'm just curious if how you approach that, how you look at that facet between guys when you're evaluating guys?
Well, I think everybody has a defensive mindset. It's just what do you demand from them on a day-to-day basis? What becomes your habits versus what you tolerate? If you don't tolerate shortcuts, if you demand a certain level of participation on the defensive end, it makes it a lot more smooth. And that's one of the big things that attracted us to Wes when he was in Denver, especially the last 3 years, being top 10 on offense, top 10 on defense, and he had a hand on both sides of the ball. I think he's pretty familiar with how to integrate players into a defensive scheme that you can execute. And with all due respect to some of the players on Denver's roster, I wouldn't say they were known as great defenders, but it's the buy-in and it's the continuity and it's the day-to-day upkeep of the goals that you set at the beginning of the season. And I think that's something that he can certainly bring to us, and I look at where we finished the season, regular season last year. These guys prove they can defend. Now we got to instill from day one all the way through the last game of the season and into the playoffs next year that this is how we're going to play and keep that, kind of hold that line all the way through the season.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
DA.
Tommy, how are you, sir?
DA, you look like you're in a
Witness
mob
protection?
trial. I can't see you. Yeah, it's like a
Like
shadow.
I'm testifying against Gotti later today? Is that
Tell you what,
what-
you got some great looking headphones on though. That's impressive.
All right. Hey, just for bookkeeping's sake, there has been no request or no discussion from Brad or his representatives about wanting to be traded.
That's correct.
Okay. Secondly, you have said, and you think that there's ways to improve the team. How, without going into detail, because you won't and can't obviously, where do you think, or what do you think the improvement level can be through free agency and trades in the draft to get you to the next level next season?
Well, certainly it all starts with hopefully the players that we do have here from last year got better over the summer. And that's a big part of it, player development wise. But certainly there's a whole lot of free agents that would love to play with Bradley Beal, that would love to play with Russell Westbrook. Our job is to find the best valued ones. And again, this time last year, I don't think some of the guys that we signed, they weren't necessarily head turners. They weren't people that were household names, but finding those valuable guys that can come in and perform. I think that's an area, we've really tried to identify and bring those names forward. And then certainly, like I said, there's always an opportunity to make a trade if you have enough good young players. And I've gotten enough inquiries on guys on our roster that makes me feel like, hey, we have good players on this roster. We have to get better. There's no question. But free agency represents a lot of things, not just necessarily right now, but for the future. You get an idea who has an appetite to come to DC. And I would say pretty much we've heard from the key people that we're really interested in. And in terms of their agents, getting a feel for where it's going to be. Obviously, we can't have any discussions until August 2nd. But what I do, I read The Athletic. I get tips from Fred and yourself and
There you
who's
go.
out there rumored. That's all I need. So it's been very helpful. I appreciate that.
It's important that you keep us in mind. Thank you.
Well, I know this, Dave. DA, seriously, I think most free agents would love to play with Bradley Beal, to play with
Yep.
Russell Westbrook, to be in the nation's capital.
Mhm.
And, I think we're limited by what we have this year. We're not a cap space team. So we have to be
Right.
very judicious how we carve up our exceptions. And I think we've proven that in the past, that that's something we take very serious and we try to identify and do the best we can there. And that's not going to change this year for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Chase.
Tommy, kind of going off what you said in that last answer, when it comes to young players and teams calling about them, how will you kind of weigh this offseason between, I guess in a way sacrificing the future for the present and maybe parting with some of these guys that you have developed and like their futures?
Well, it's like we've always said, Chase, you want to prepare for the big moment and be ready for the big moment. And you'll know when that moment comes because people will be calling you about it. We don't go intending to trade anybody on our roster, right? But when those moments present themselves in the last 2 years, I think we've shown we're not shy to do anything that we think makes the Wizards better. Our player development piece is going on right now. Rui's playing for Japan in huge games. He gets to play today against Luka Doncic. Slovenia. That's a huge game for him. That's a big step up. So in the last calendar year, Rui's played in the NBA playoffs. He's played in the Olympics. That's huge for a player and going into his third season in the NBA. Denny's been cleared now to get out on the court and start to do some stuff. We'll get him integrated into some more contact stuff in a week or two. That's big time steps for us. And then we get ready for summer league with whoever we draft and some of the key people that we want to have with Cassius Winston, Caleb Holmesley. Those are player development pieces. So we have a lot of that going on. And then hopefully the whole month of September, we'll be able to have open gyms and Wes come in and spend some time with our players and integrate some of the systems. So we're ready to hit training camp running healthy and hopefully with more talent.
Neil?
Hey, Tommy, obviously you guys will be able to give Brad an extension offer, come October. Do you feel that in the next 2 months that you guys have between draft, free agency, you said it yourself, you guys aren't a cap space team. You said you can't be a running back team as well. Do you feel like these 2 months upcoming are going to be the make or break whether Brad continues to be in the uniform next season?
I don't think anything's ever make or break with anything. What we got to do is continue to push to get better and show value, show that we've gotten better across the board. I don't know how to say it any more strong than that an extension is available in October. That's something that'll be there the moment it's available. There's no pressure on Bradley other than I just want to make sure we respect the day that it's available, that it's there. That's what we did the last time when we did the extension that no one thought we could do. But the next 2 months is really our responsibility to watch the Wizards getting better. And we've tried to do everything we can as well thought out as we can, not cut corners or do anything. Somebody asked earlier about, are we sacrificing the future for now? I think there's ways to get better for next season and ways to have something in the bank to continue to improve in the outer years that you can do parallel to each other at the same time. And I think that's certainly something we're striving for.
And in the communication that you're saying that you're having with Brad, consistently, constantly, is it more so you always letting him know what you're thinking, or is he giving you ideas of, okay, if this is the direction that we might go in, that would be something that I would be, positive about?
Sometimes I just want to talk about his U17 team and wish his son a happy third birthday. Those conversations are okay too right now. So we talk about everything.
All right. Thank you, Tommy.
Chris Miller?
Tommy, you know better than anybody, a staff for a first-year head coach is extremely valuable. Will Wes have final say on his staff, or will you make some recommendations? And are there any staff members you guys are willing to announce today?
We're not ready to announce today, but we got a lot of exciting candidates for sure. And it's something that, I give Wes pretty wide rein. He's got to be comfortable with his staff, and most of the names we've discussed, we have them in common anyway. I think the most important thing is to get that piece right. We're not in a rush. We have summer league coming up certainly, but Wes is here. He is a first-time head coach, but he's been an assistant for 24 years in the NBA. One great aspect for Wes is his experience of working with first-time head coaches. So he remembers working with Mark Jackson. He remembers working with Jock Vaughn. It is hard to be a first-time head coach. He took a lot of those lessons, spent time with Malone in Denver, and he had a great deal of responsibility. That's not the 18 inches next to him, no question. But he's not your typical first-time head coach with his experience that he's had, Chris. And I think he's going to surround himself with some people, possibly a former NBA head coach or two. But regardless, there are going to be people that there's a lot of years of service with them. And we're going to have a very creative staff. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
There's clearly a calendar to get ready for the summer league. How do you see that envisioned with his staff? Will he coach the summer league? And will Denny be a part of the summer league also?
We're not going to make any decisions on Denny anytime soon. It's going to go as his health goes and as his clearance goes. For me, I'd rather have him be 100% healthy all summer long. And playing in the summer league games is certainly something we'll discuss, but I'd rather have zero setbacks so we're ready for the season. In terms of West coaching games, I think we're still knocking that around. We're going to have a lot of opportunities to be around our roster guys as well. And I think for him as a first-time head coach, spending time with your roster guys who you know are under contract, who are going to be here in the fall, maybe more beneficial time-wise, more efficient than being constantly immersed in the summer league stuff. Wes has coached summer league before. He's coached NBA games before. He'll probably run all of our practices, obviously, for summer league. But if given the choice, I think he's got some really capable ideas of assistant coaches that we're discussing anyway that can handle summer league. But we're still kicking that around. First summer league game isn't until August 8th. We're still trying to finalize the staff. The calendar doesn't dictate that the staff has to be done by August 8th. It has to be certainly by the first preseason, so we'll take our time with that.
All right, everyone, that's all the time we have today. Tommy, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great night. Great draft tomorrow night will be fun. Look forward to seeing y'all.